Hey friends, it is Wednesday and I am finally back with a demonstration video. Check out why I love working with translucent layers, and I'll also throw in some really helpful tips. It is Wednesday and I'm back with some painted tissue paper to do a demonstration that was going to be a short video, a reel. But with this bubble painted paper from my 100 collage papers and this fun marble painting, I ended up demonstrating more than just how tinted tissue paper works over other papers in a collage. And I wanted to get into a little more detail. So here we are. I'm glad to be back, even though this isn't the video I thought it would be. The first thing I did was start tearing my bubble paper to give it a fun edge to add to this mini demonstration collage. In a lovely mixed media art journal I received as a gift. The paper isn't quite thick enough for all of the types of art I do in my Better with Art art journal, but it is great for collage. And if I find a link to it, it will be in the description. This paper is too tall to fit on my page, and I like tearing straight edges against a ruler, but I was filming this at camp and did not have my metal ruler with me and did a terrible job with the scissors, but that's okay. Before I committed to how I wanted to use my marble paper, I did rip this piece of ugly mistaken paint off the corner. I somehow had not completely wiped down my work surface before I started this, and I was very frustrated to have set my papers in painty water I had not seen. Another fun shape to demonstrate how the white areas of tissue paper will vanish into your background and how different levels of pigment will allow layers behind to show through. Something else I didn't pack was a heavier adhesive. I do have my Golden Brand satin glazing liquid, which is what I always use for my tissue paper, which is the type of collage I was planning on working on. But I had packed some other papers for just this type of demonstration. But my brain hadn't followed through with an adhesive for that, but that's okay. I will use the glazing liquid, but I will have to use a little more, and it actually worked better than I expected. I did have to reapply around the edges on both papers, and as always with any type of paper, with this layered type of piece, you want to use your adhesive beneath and above your collage paper, which is why it's important that your papers be color fast, that they won't reactivate with the medium. I do sometimes have a little bit of reactivation, particularly with tissue paper that has a heavy load of pigment, but it's why I don't use something like watercolor in my layers. And that gluing down took half as much time for you to watch as it did for me to do. As you can see, this tissue paper has some translucence on its own, but when it is wet with the medium used as adhesive, it becomes even more so. Some tissue papers will completely vanish into their background. Others will retain a little bit of cloudiness, and some will regain a little bit of that opacity as they dry. I had again speeded up the glue brushing, but at least for now I will keep this one at regular speed so you get a clearer idea of how long it actually takes. And here is another thing I'm demonstrating in this video. I've seen more and more people are wetting their collage papers before adhering them to avoid wrinkles and bubbles. As you can see, it makes a huge difference. I like this texture on the left side in some cases, but especially when working with larger pieces of tissue paper, getting it down smoothly is difficult. And as you can see, yes, the water makes a huge difference and even works on thin tissue paper. But as always, when dealing with tissue paper, be gentle. well, at least relatively gentle. You have to find the right balance. And it's not a perfect science. And sometimes you will tear your tissue paper. And sometimes that can actually look really cool. Other times, well, you will be very frustrated and feel like you've ruined the entire piece. As with everything else I do in art, I roll with it. That being said, another thing you can see from this section of the video is air bubbles can be very annoying. I actually couldn't remember which type of tissue paper this was that I had used to mop up some other color, but judging by how well it's dealing with so much manipulation, I believe it is medical exam paper, which I have also been seeing more people using on YouTube and Instagram. The difference between the dry and wet application here is significant. And now we are at the final sort of demonstration feature of this video. Tearing wet tissue paper from the edges of your collage can work pretty well, though on the messy side, and you have to be careful of the fragility of the tissue paper. Using a water brush pen works even better. I will say it works even better when you first let the tissue paper dry. So the only softened bit of paper you are working with is the line you paint on, so to speak, and can tear with. Translucent layers are so much fun to work with. I hope you've enjoyed my little demonstration of what you can do with them and that it inspires you to make your own art. You can also sign up at the link in the description to be among the first to know when my Seeking Solace Translucent Layers Collage Workshop opens for early registration.